Hey, Chris, let's do this. Welcome. Finally, my top 10 games of 2022. I'm 4 months behind of everyone else, wanted to get more plays in, wanted to talk about more games that could potentially make the list. And this list, to be fair, has changed dramatically compared to the end of 2022 and now. So, what games were in my top 10? What games were in my top 3? What games were in my top 5 even? I'll tell you right now, top 5 was tough. Top 10, not as tough. 11 through 20 was also very tough. I mean, anyone who says that this was not a good year for games is flat out just not playing good games, I guess. I don't know, whatever. But there are a lot of good games. And there are going to be some on this list that you're going to go, absolutely, Chris, I absolutely agree with you. All the other reviewers agree with you as well. And there are going to be some games on this list that aren't going to be on other people's lists. I'll tell you that right now. So if you want some surprises, if you want some Liege, what is Liege like? Where are things at? Because this is another test of things, right? Like, end of 2022, how many are already moved on from those games and are never going to play those games again, right? That's always a good test. I'm still thinking about them, and like I said, dynamically speaking, they're still on my top 10 list, and they still made their ways up and down. So, without further ado, let's do. Now, what top 10 list would be a top 10 list without an honorable mention? Honorable mention is this bad boy, Scout. If you haven't played Scout, if you haven't gotten one of the new editions, right, this is an absolutely fan-freaking-tastic, this is how hard this was. Scout is falling outside of my top 10 this year, just because the other stuff is a little bit higher in the presence of my mind right now. If you haven't played this card game where you're just taking a deck of cards with two numbers on either side, rearranging them in a hand a certain way, and then having to play them in straights, pairs, or just, triplicates, however you want to, in order to get your cards out first to not get negative points. Sounds really simple. Execution is key. This is a card game, especially size-wise, Japanese. I love the small size, the smaller price point. The re-theme just is absolutely fantastic, and the colors are great. And this is a game I can bring anywhere, play with anyone, and that's going to be the main theme of a lot of these games on this list. Doesn't matter how freaking good it is. I mean, people are going to look at a lot of lists and say, well, these were the technically best games. No, the technically best games in my collection are the ones that I love to play that I can get played. If you can't get them played, doesn't matter how good they are, right? Got to talk about that. That's why you got to talk about Scout. Is easily honorable mention. Probably should be higher on this list, to be frank with you right now. I'll put that out there as the honorable mention number 1. Now, right below this, if you're paying attention on this, you can see that we're talking about Wonderland's War. Wonderland's War is number 10. A lot of people have this higher. I can't rank this higher. I love area control when it's like this, when it's simplistic in nature. If you've seen any of my recent reviews, like Fractured Sky, like DEI sitting right up here, I like the simplistic, fast nature of it, and Wonderland's War works in that sense. And yeah, I'm an original Kickstarter backer. I got the deluxe coins here. You can kind of see that they all just got thrown around, and who knows where some of them belong, and who cares, right? But the issue is, when I'm rearranging this in the middle of the video, that this game works for what it is. It really does. But at the same time, it's not higher on this list because it's just missing something. And I was hoping that the first expansion that came onto crowdfunding last year was going to address it. And it was really just swapping out decks, which isn't the issue. It's just missing one key element to make it above a little bit higher. The asymmetric factions, there was some balancing issues. The actual board itself was okay. I wish there was something going on in each of the areas around the map that gave them a little bit more asymmetry. Trying to remember which one you want to have for your secret objectives. And the secret objectives with the top and the bottoms of the cards, it just felt a little bit more disjointed than I would have wanted. But it plays fast, it plays smooth, it's very intuitive, and that's the best thing about a game like this, is that it just works. And so could this be higher when they eventually do the big box expansion that they've, hinted at? Do I love bag building? I freaking love bag building. And that's why this game works for me. Because if you don't like bag building, if you don't like the random chance of drawing, you're not going to like this game. And that's okay. It's not going to be for you. Do you want deluxeifications? Yes, you want the chips. No, I don't want miniatures. I'm happy with the standees. They work freaking amazing. They're colorful. And I don't need to worry about a bunch of gray plastic junk on my tabletop for that reason. So that is number 10. Funny enough, number 9, I can't even find my copy of it right now because it's been recently played and it's sitting somewhere in this gigantic mess of a game collection. Number 9, Splendor Duel. I talked about it. I said it was good. You ignore the part of the Splendor and the fact that you're associating it with Splendor. It's actually a very, very good head-to-head 2-player game. The putting down of the chips on the market space, of the arrangements as you're drawing them off as well, and the way they've changed the victory points in order to give you multiple avenues in which to actually win the game, scoring-wise, it's easy to play, but it's got more strategery, tactical strategy, than Splendor. I mean, Splendor's, a race. It's not an engine builder. This has a little bit of an engine, a little bit of a race, a little bit of a tactician element of things for it. And so for that reason, and it's $20. Go pick it up. Scout. It's going to be $20. Go pick it up, right? The cost of both of those is less than what this is going to cost you as a chip, the deluxe chip. So that cannot be freaking discounted. If I had the copy, I'd talk about it and show off the components more, but it's somewhere lurking in the collection. That's why it's number 9. Number 8. I've been meaning to put this review out for a long time. It is coming slowly and surely, but Level 99 Games. They took and they redid Sakura Arms. Are you familiar with Sakura Arms? You're probably familiar with the other 2-player dueling games from Level 99, Battlecon and Exceed. Those are the big names. Don't be fooled. This one is a little bit more random. It's also more strategic than Exceed. It's not quite as much pure information as Battlecon, but that's because what you're doing essentially is you take 2 of these different character decks of all of these different characters that I have here, right? So you've got all these characters with all their different cards and all their different powers. They each come with like 10 or 12 different cards in a deck. And you draw essentially half of them. Any number, any combination of these 2 fighters, I take them and I put them and make one deck. And then I battle up head to head using this little track system right here that's going to be going head to head this way against your opponent. And it just freaking works. This is probably more technically difficult than Exceed or Battlecon, right? Battlecon, you kind of got the cycle of cards that you're kind of going through and you start to meta and you start to know, okay, this is coming to me next turn and I can combine these and this is how this is going to go. And Exceed, you just get this big deck of cards and you go, I'm going to play the best thing tactically that's going to be positional in terms of, who's versus here and who's versus here. Well, this is kind of giving you a little bit of both, but in a much smaller deck that you're cycling through and very tactical in how you're managing your elements on this board as you go from one part of the board to the other, which is going to allow you to then generate income, to play the cards that you want to allocate damage that has been done to you, but also to maneuver back and forth when you're a certain distance away from your opponent. You can see all of the different characters. You just grab 4, any 4 that you would want, or you just let somebody pick 2 and you go. And you see what combinations. The biggest problem is, unlike Battlecon and Exceed, you actually have to choose and you have to get good synergy. So this game is won or lost, not necessarily always on the battlefield, but it's won or lost on the choice of your cards. I can see why people aren't as high on it. I'm not one of those people. That's why it's number 8. Number 7, we're just going to slide this out of the way for a second. And you can see right here from the overhead shot, this is Keep the Heroes Out. Keep the Heroes Out. Cooperative game that showed up at the end of 2022 from crowdfunding. I took a chance on this because I said, you know what? It's kind of got this little dungeon setup. You've got really cool looking meeples and you're playing as the monsters trying to, well, as the title aforementioned says, keep the heroes out. And the heroes are going to spawn on a turn-by-turn basis in a reverse sort of tower defense pandemic style-esque game, and you're going to be having to manage them while gathering resources up to set traps for them and to complete your own objectives and to basically power up your own deck because you get an actual individual monster. And each of the monsters are asymmetric. Each of the monsters have a different number of meeples that are available to you. These are the tiles. And so each tile actually has an asymmetric ability that you're going to be taking in that area. So I get a bone. I can use a coin to convert it into an item card. And so you're going to have 3 different types of cards that you're going to be drawing. You're going to be drawing more allies. You're going to be drawing more item upgrades. You're going to be drawing like special tokens or special cards that are going to help you. I mean, I have a Cthulhu freaking meeple here, folks. Cthulhu meeple! Things you never thought you'd say or things you never thought you'd need in the first place. And it just works. It's just a great, hard, cooperative Pandemic-esque style game. And I can't say enough about it. They just announced that there's going to be an expansion on crowdfunding later this year. The game's hard. It's got scenarios that you can play through, and it's got like 3 different levels of difficulty as well that you can play through as well, like how far you want to go in terms of the deck. It's a little bit long. It's a little bit long because if you're playing even like 2-player, you have to get through the deck in terms of the heroes that you're fighting off, and you have to go through it 2 times. And so that's the biggest issue. That's the biggest issue. But otherwise, I mean, look at this dungeon book. I mean, again, these are all the different scenarios. They give you the setup for all of them, different configurations, different tiles, different enemies that you're going to be having to deal with different powers that are going to be going up against you on a turn-by-turn basis. The part-time Wicked Overlord, the Glee Club Reunion, the Dragon's Treasure, the Bad Press, Endangered Species, Sold Out Tickets. I mean, look at 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. This game has it everything. And so if you're looking for something hard cooperative, like that is my shmeem. I mean, that is my thing, folks, right? Like, I love hard cooperative. I love this style of things. Play it with my kids, play it with my wife, play it with my game group. If you had this on your radar before, you should highly consider it. If you didn't, and you like this style, or you like what I like, give this one a heavy look-see. That's why it's on the list, right? Speaking of me can't finding games in my own collection, number 6 here, Heat Pedal to the Metal. Yeah, I picked up a copy when it was at retail, right after it released. Along with Splendor Duel. That was in an order that I did from retail, and yeah, that was a good order, right? This game is as good as people say. People aren't going to like it. It's not as complex. It's not as detailed. It's not as deep, mechanically speaking, from, you know, I do stuff and then I do stuff and then I do stuff, right? Because that's what people want out of these racing games. They want hardcore Formula One style racing. They don't want NASCAR go around in a couple circles, you know? Complexity-wise. But this is a game that I can get behind as a non-race person. This is accessible. It's easy to get to the table. They give you enough content for the price point. They give you a couple different race courses. They give you a couple different modules that you can add as you go along. The card play is relatively straightforward in terms of, I got cards in my hand. Oh, I got heat. I got to burn them. I got to get them out of my hand. I got to get them on my deck. I got to get them where they need to go. If I can't get them where they need to go, then I'm going to have to optimize later. Can I use too many cards to go into a corner too fast? Can I, you know, have enough to mitigate it? And it just works. I am very happy with it wherever the heck it is at this point in my collection, right? But it's not going anywhere either. You know, I could see that being a top 25 game for me all time, you know, and that's where we're talking about right now in the top 5, 6, 7 games of this list. Like, it's that good of a year for me, personally speaking. And so I have no qualms about telling you that that's a freaking amazing game. Don't buy it on the secondary market. Hardly any game is worth, you know, paying twice the cost in the secondary market, but that's a whole nother video. And in case you didn't believe me, right, here's Splendor Duel. I found it while I was searching for Heat Pedal to the Metal. So yes, I do still have these games. I'm not just like lip servicing you, you know, that, okay, this is a good game and I already got rid of it, right? Like, here it is. And, you know, if I wanted to sell Heat Pedal for the Metal, right, it's still in between print runs that I could sell it for like twice the price, like I just mentioned, but I'm not doing that. Screw that, man. No way. Okay, what's number 5 then? Number 5, I talked about this. I wasn't sure where it was going to fall on my Game of the Year side of things. It's War of the Ring, the card game. Now, I have the demo copy still sitting here because I have my final copy sitting up there still in shrink. Because I just haven't gotten to it yet because I have this, right? And so, yeah, I mean, this is War of the Ring, the card game. If you watched my review, I said that this was potentially going to be on a lot of people's top lists. Now, you have people that don't like it, but they don't like it, like I said, for obvious reasons. It's not War of the Ring. It's not. It's not at all. It's easier to play than War of the Ring. I can get this played with my wife. I could explain this to my wife, you know, and get it played within a half an hour. And that's saying something. I can't get Star Wars Rebellion played. I don't even have a copy of War of the Ring because I know I'm never going to get it played. And you've taken one of my favorite IPs and you've given me the ability to translate it to the tabletop. And that's what this is about, right? You have these different paths on the light and the dark side of things that you're going to be maneuvering, and you go through and you have these different abilities that are going to be activated depending on whose territory it is. You have your deck that you're going to be going through as well, drawing, timing, tactical strategy options that are going to be at your fingertips plethora-wise, whether you are one of the evil decks or one of the good decks. I'm just going to leave it at that because you have multiple options. The only thing you can really fault this game for, in my opinion, is, yeah, I mean, what's your preferred player count? There's a 2-player mode, a 3-player mode, and a 4-player mode. I am always going to go with the 2-player mode. I don't want to play this 3 players. It doesn't work as well. I want to play this 4 players. I want to have control. The other thing you can say, and I won't argue that, is it needs a little more. Guess what? I am sure we are going to get an expansion in the next year or two. Give each of these decks a little bit more fleshed out, well, deck. And if that's your concern that it's not deep enough, well, I mean, just like Star Wars, the deck building game, is this game perfect? No. But it's freaking good for what it is. Freaking good. Forking good, even. And if you like either of those things, if you are like me and you said, I am never going to be able to play War of the Ring, the miniature game with the setup and the couple hour playtime and the meta that you need to know all the nuance of the rules and all of that sort of stuff, this eliminates a lot of that without losing some of the incorporation. It's not going to be a perfect tale of, you know, the Fellowship going across the land to deliver the ring to Mordor, like people always exclaim the gaming experience from the miniature version is going to give you. But I'll tell you this, if you can get it played, that beats the other already, in my opinion. I don't care how good it is. If you can't get it played, War of the Ring, the card game. Number 5. Number 4. Number 4. Number 4, Mists over Carcassonne. It's coming very shortly to North America. You know? Nebel über Carcassonne. Cooperative Carcassonne. If you had told me a year ago that Cooperative Carcassonne, I don't own any other Carcassonnes, folks. The only thing that I own remotely close to Carcassonne is Land versus Sea, which I reviewed last year or whatever. It was in my top 10 as well. Go pick this game up. Speaking of keep the heroes out, I don't feel the need to ever own another Carcassonne now that I have this, because I like Carcassonne, but I like Cooperative Carcassonne better. This is a hard freaking tile laying game. 6 levels of play, difficulty that's going to drive you crazy, but also just be completely accessible. I mean, look, you can see I have the English rules printed off from online because I got it then. You're trying to get so many points scored depending on how you're defeating the ghosts and how you're going through. You just have your classic meeples, nothing fancy. And you've got ghosts and tiles and fog and connecting them and cooperative play. So it's a little bit more dynamic, and you can just get screwed if you get the wrong tile and you can't play it in an area where you don't have any wiggle room, and you're enclosing the fog areas to get rid of the ghosts or to score points or to, you know, connect the roads or the cities that you need to score points in additional ways. And how do you get rid of the ghosts, and how do you not deal with the tombstones or the graveyards that are going to give you difficulty at the higher levels? And, you know, having certain points by certain number of time in the game in the first place, it just works. I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is one of the best games of the year. This is a never gonna leave my collection game. It's incredibly easy to explain. It's incredibly difficult to win, especially at the higher levels. Anything higher than like level 2 even is hard. 5 and 6 are nay impossible unless you are perfectly coordinating things. And that's also the thing. It is winnable though. There's nothing worse than a game like this that you play and you go, I just can't win this because the game screws me over, right? Like, I've had a couple of those cooperative games. I've gotten rid of them. They aren't fun. They aren't fun at all. The remake of Ghost Stories, whatever that one was called. I forget what that one was, with the fantasy version of things. It's horrible. It was so luck-driven that you couldn't win even if you played perfectly sometimes. And so when it hits shelves in North America, people are going to be really liking this. And I wouldn't be surprised when people get it widely. It's going to be on people's top 2023 lists. Not everybody's, but if this is your vibe, this is your vibe. Haha, I'm cheating. This is Guards of Atlantis 2. I'm cheating. This is 3B. If you thought I could do a top 10 list with actually only making it 10 games, well, you were wrong, right? So now we're up to at least 12. Guards of Atlantis 2. I mean, this is the premier MOBA-esque game. The reason this isn't higher up is I don't have enough play in it yet to be feeling confident that it could be higher. I also think it's a lot harder to hit the table than any of these other games on this list so far, because, you know, recommended player count is appreciably a 4 to 8. And so if you're playing with 2 people, it's a lot harder to get to the table in that sense. Are you going to want a League of Legends-esque game with, you know, this size of manual and rules of play and ranging and team battling? And is it going to be for everyone when you're looking at how big this box is, right? I mean, like, this is a big freaking box. No, it's not going to be for everybody. Should you be interested in this one? Probably not. This is probably the one that I would say, of all the games on this list, this is the one that I can least recommend, even though it's sitting here at 3B, right? Because of those issues. But if you're looking for something like this at the higher player counts, there's nothing else out there like it. If you're looking for something at the lower player counts, go check out God Tier or Battle for Eternia, both of which I've reviewed. So, well, maybe Battle for Eternia is not out yet, but take that for what you will. But this is the preeminent game out there for a reason. It's impressive. So that's 3B as a side tangent there. What's 3A? Well, Die Wonderland Terme. Mispronouncing it, I'm sure. This is the Wandering Towers. Again, this one is coming to North America very, very shortly. I guess there's going to be a little bit of extra going along with it from Capstone. I guess they're the ones that picked it up, like a mini expansion to go with it. And guess what? I'm going to get it because this game is that good. This is a whole raucous amount of fun with these little towers that you're going to be stacking, moving around, and, you know, just kind of encircling each other with. This is a game that I brought with me to our annual vacation last summer. I played it with my wife, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, my sister-in-law's kids, my niece and my nephew, and everybody, all ranging in game experience, absolutely fantastically loved it. All you're doing is playing these little cards, right? You either move your little wizards or you move the tower. And you just get the option sometimes of either or. And you play a couple of these on your turn and that's it. All you're doing is moving these little towers around, folks. They're little towers. Look, they're just cute little towers. And look, you got the little Raven Castle here, and you got to get all your little wizards in there. Sounds simple, right? Except, you know, all of a sudden the Raven Castle gets put on the tower and somebody moves the tower away from you. Or, uh-oh, I have a couple stacks. Where is my wizard? Is he all the way underneath? Is he in the middle there? Is he under this one? This game should not be on paper as much fun as it is. This is one of the best I can play this with anyone games that I have ever played. I have no qualms about telling you this is in my top 10 or 15 games of all time. No qualms about it. Like, this is one of those games, you pull this out anytime, anywhere with anyone, and I will play it with you. It's that much fun. It's that much chaos. It's still got a level of very, very good tactical nature that makes it just where anyone can win. And that's what I want to do with a game like this, right? Words cannot capture this. That's why this is number 3. This should be potentially higher on this list. You know, if you come back to me a year from now, would this potentially be higher on this list than some of the others? It's questionable, but easily possible. These top 3 right here, I could turn them in any 3 order and I could be very happy with this list. And like I said at the beginning, that's why this was so difficult. So if this one, again, if this has any appeal to you whatsoever from a lighter game that's just more fun than any game should be like this, I cannot recommend this strongly enough. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, what's number 2? Well, number 2's been sitting behind me the whole time. Puzzle Strike 2. Sterling Games, folks. The biggest detriment to this game is it's ugly. What I mean by that is it's not aesthetically pleasing to a lot of people. This color scheme is not going to be appealing to a lot of gamers off of the shelf. But this gem deck building style game, it's just a fantastic twist on the deck building experience. So, I mean, when you open it up here, and after I've put all the cards back in, because this is what you get when you store a game on its side that shouldn't be on its side, I mean, this scepter right here, this little scepter is horribly overproduced, right? It makes little shinies, and maybe my battery's dead even. Maybe my battery is dead, I guess so. I haven't even used it that much. Sad. RIP gemmed scepter. But this is basically to mark the first player, and so totally superfluous, totally overproduced. But the game itself, with the player boards and the take that of shooting gems at your opponent and had them having to drop them down a la a little bit of Bullet minus the real time, while giving you crazy deck building combos and powers that you're going to be utilizing to go along in the first place. As you can see here, just everything under the sun, including dinosaurs in this deck. These are all self-contained decks that you rotate through. So every game that you're going to play is going to be dramatically different because the mechanics themselves of how you're going to combo these cards in your deck are different. And you all start out with an asymmetric character that gives you 3 additional powers that are going to be manipulating it in a slightly different way too. So this is reminiscent of the original Puzzle Strike, but this is so much better and different in the same way that never not want to play this game. The gem comboing power down here at the bottom of this board too, you clear these gems and then you fill up your super moves here, and when you get them filled, well, then you get to do it back at somebody else. You have creatures, like I mentioned with those dinosaurs, that are going to give you asymmetric powers as you go along, and if you ever can't empty it past the red on your turn, well, you lose. It's that simple and straightforward. The deck rotates itself in terms of the marketplace for a deck builder that you're always worried about. And again, it just does a fantastic job of what it should do. The price point's the only issue. Sterling Games is going to be expensive. And do you need that scepter? Absolutely not. Does it take away from the gameplay and being one of the more innovative games I've played in the last 2 or 3 years? No, it doesn't. And that's why it's number 2. But that's also why I could see it being number 1, because again, of the innovative gameplay of all the different decks. But I could also see it falling behind Wandering Towers, because Wandering Towers is just that much more accessible. There's a little bit more outside the box here that people aren't going to be as used to in a good way, but also in a bad way, to easy to get it to the table as well. So there you go. Drum roll for number 1. What's number 1? Sitting right in front of you here. Seen this box before? You probably have. Maybe you haven't. But if you don't know what it is, the big white box, opposite, the yin to the yang of the big black box from KDM, this is Aeon Trespass Odyssey. I just ran into a argument, i.e. on the Board Game Geek forum, saying the Dice Tower's review of it wasn't deep enough. They didn't play through all 16 cycles of it, all 3 cycles of it, to know, cycle 1 was really good, but I don't know if cycle 1 is really good. I'm not going to buy it just for one good cycle. Thank you, Tom Vassell, for actually coming into the comment section and setting these people right, which is amazing when people do that and then they realize, hey, I was being kind of a not very nice person, and then someone calls them out on it. Yeah, it needs it sometimes. Anyway, this game is that good. The innovation that goes in this, no spoilers, cycle 1 just gets better to cycle 2, just gets better to cycle 3. It's that good, folks. It's that good. It's that good. It came towards the end of the year. Everyone got wrapped up in Oathsworn and Frosthaven, and this kind of got pushed aside, I think, from a lot of people's standpoint. And it's longer than one of those games as well. I mean, this is longer than Oathsworn. It's not probably longer than Frosthaven. You could probably debate that one. But this is innovatively, mechanically speaking, people thought this was going to be a clone of KDM. No, it's better. It's better. I said that in my review. I stand by that. I have no qualms about saying it. If you're on the fence at all, it's better. I wouldn't even pick up KDM. You get everything and more with a better price point, and you don't have to wait a couple years to know whether or not you're going to get the rest of your stuff. But the biggest barrier, obviously, is this one is also harder to get to the table. I have played this almost exclusively solo. There's a lot of teardown. There's a lot more setup. That's why I said, number 2 and number 3 could easily swap places with this just from ease of accessibility. And, 3B in this one, Guards of Atlantis 2 in this, price point wise definitely plays a factor. The rest of these games on this list are probably less than the all-in for this one. Probably they are. But I can't get it out of my head too, mechanistically, what they've done in the combination of the narrative, the campaign, the upgrades, the civ building, the combat, the difficulty, all of those things just merged together. It just is so much more than the individual parts. It's an experience. It's a lifestyle game. You've heard me say that before. But it is, I will make the argument, one of, if not the best lifestyle game out there right now. Now, haven't played through Oathsworn, full disclaimer there. So, maybe my opinion is going to change. But if you're on the fence at all and you like this style of game, if you don't like this style of game, nothing about this game is going to change your mind. Nothing. Nothing whatsoever. But if you were on the fence and going, is it really as good as the hype has made it out to believe? Yeah, it is. It is. And I say that as, someone who does not hype up games regularly. I try to stay most middle of the row right now, to give you equal sides of things. But this one's that good. I don't really have much bad to say about it at all. I don't really have much bad to say to most of these games on this list. And that's why they're on the list in the first place. Because I also just love fun, interesting games. And that's what all of these are. That's the bottom line. And they're games I can get played. They're games I have been playing. They're games that I love to play. And that's why you get into this hobby, to find stuff like this. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully this was useful. Let me know what you think. Top 10 games, 2022. Better late than never. Subscribe. Now you know a little bit of my taste. I know a couple of you have been asking in the comment section, what does Chris like? What doesn't Chris like? Now you know. Knowing's half the battle. G.I. Joe! I make that reference all the time at like work and other places, and no one gets that reference anymore. You know, knowing is half the battle. You see the little stars go across this. Anyone else? This is what you get at the end of one of my videos, though. That's why I don't have as many subscribers. Thanks, guys. Love you. Thanks for the support. Video coming up very soon. My best of Q1 of 2023. Gonna kind of keep a running tally this year, so it's a little bit easier. Also, if you're interested in what didn't make the list, what just missed making the list of top 10, what's 11 through 20, or maybe 13 through 22, depending on how you want to count things. I'll go 11 through 20, though. I'll do that video too shortly. Not in 4 months, though. Less than 4 months, promise. Stay classy. Have an awesome, freaking, fantastic day. See you around. I really need to get better at finding my own games in the collection before doing the video. It would really save on the cutting time later on. Yeah, it's not going to be a perfect tale of, you know, treachery and backstabbing and plotting across the 9 lands